Hello. For my informal interview, I chose to interview Vietnamese poet Hoa Nguyen. Hoa Nguyen is a poet, speaker, and facilitator who was born in the Mekong Delta, raised in the US, and now lives here in Toronto. Her published works include Red Juice, Violet Energy Ingots, and her most recent collection of poetry, A Thousand Times You Lose Your Treasure, which garnered critical acclaim and was a finalist for various literature awards. I discovered her work in 2020 following a virtual event and auction that showcased various Vietnamese poets and writers held by the collaborative group She Who Has No Masters. Soon after that, I ordered her chapbook Ask About Language as If It Forgets, which has stayed with me ever since I read it. What strikes me most about her writing is the vibrant imagery and urgency of her poems. Wa's work especially resonates with me as I am a second generation child of Vietnamese immigrants who came to Canada around the 1980s. The one piece of advice Wa offered me when I asked, among the countless other things I learned throughout our enlightening conversation, was to find a couple of solid, supportive people to have in your corner, especially if you feel out of place within your community for whatever reason. These people can inspire you, motivate you, check you, and see you through all the struggles that come with being an artist and otherwise working as a creative. This can be really useful for anyone, but of course, sometimes you have to go looking for it. Wa mentions how she was lucky enough to find this community within the arts program she chose to pursue in undergrad, but she's conscious of the fact that this may not be the case for everyone. She recommends circulating in the spaces that are relevant to your own work and practice. So if it's poetry, you can participate in workshops held around the city, community events, or look into publishing or curation. In order to explain why I chose to interview Wa, especially in terms of discussions relating to equity, diversity, and inclusion, I've included one of her poems called Transplants in the next slide. I won't read the whole thing, but rather one verse in particular that stands out to me. And no, I don't want to conduct myli research and produce it for you, dear reader. So this verse to me, in a poem that is ostensibly about the experience of being a diasporic Vietnamese person, refers to the horrific My Lai massacre carried out during the Vietnam War. It speaks to a resistance against the far too frequent pigeonholing of artists of color and that specific experience that most people of color, especially those who identify with or carry with them a history of diaspora and or oppression, go through, of having to be defined by historic traumas and even relive them or create them for an audience that is usually made of white people. I encourage you to pause the presentation if possible and read the whole poem. When I was thinking of people to interview for this project, Wa's name kept coming up even though I thought it would have been a long shot to get an interview for whatever reason, due to our shared identity of being Vietnamese and diasporic and how much her work resonated with me. I'm so grateful, firstly, that she agreed to do the interview and for the opportunity that this assignment presented to me that led me to the interview itself. My conversation with Wa is one I won't be forgetting anytime soon, as it was one of the first times I'd really spoken to someone about being Vietnamese other than my family and been able to go into depth about the complicated identity and history we share. Thank you for watching my presentation. You can learn more about Wa and her work at her website, which is on screen now. Please check out her most recent publication, A Thousand Times You Lose Your Treasure, wherever you buy your books.